Alright, I'm Jonah. I'm a senior at Keene State College. I had my car for over 4 years now. Computer science major. Cars are a hobby. I have a congenital heart defect. It's congestive heart failure. And I also have a couple of gene mutations that make my muscles a little bit weaker than usual. So I've got some mobility issues. I can get around well enough, but I can have some walking issues. Can't walk quite as far, so the handicap plate helps me quite a bit. Well, I first got into the car scene through Facebook, as most people do. I got my first car in 2012 when I got my license. It was a Subaru, and it was an old Outback Sport, nothing special, automatic, stock. And that kind of got me into being interested in cars. After that, car started rusting away. I was on the search. I was looking for WRXs all the time. My parents initially were very, very opposed to me being into cars. I kind of slowly ramped up. I convinced them to let me start modifying my first Subaru, and they got used to it then, and they realized that it really wasn't that bad of a thing. It was just something that was fun for me and kept me occupied. They really didn't want me getting a WRX, which is what I wanted, and that's what steered me toward a legacy. Well, the club I started was kind of more as a little social adventure, so to speak. I had just transferred in from New England College, and I really didn't know anyone here, but I was seeing a lot of modified cars around, and I thought, well, I should probably try and get in touch with these people, because I'd probably get along with them. So I went on that good old app called Yik Yak and started calling out if there were any people interested in going for drives or having car meets, and there was a surprising amount of people who were interested. So from there I met with a couple of people, and we went on a couple drives, had a first little meet, and just kind of went from there for the next couple of years, and made a lot of friends, had a lot of fun. So my legacy in particular is a 2005 GT wagon. It's the limited, so it has the leather in the sunroof, no other options. I've had to add all that stuff. I got the car, had 112,000 miles on it about 4 years ago. It was completely stock, nothing done to it. Had previously been owned by some old couple. What makes this one special is it's a 2005 manual wagon. That was the only year that they made the GT with the manual transmission, so it's pretty hard to find. There's about 1,100 total manual GT wagons, and they were only made in 2005. I've done a lot of work with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I actually received a wish when I was 14. I went out to meet Bill Gates in Seattle, and that was quite something. And since then, it's been really wonderful. I've been able to meld the car passion with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, because Make-A-Wish does a lot of events that are automotive related. They have the Kent Cruise. It's 2 times a year, where it's a giant, 200 to 400 car cruise up the Kankamagus Highway, and they've raised between $4,000 to $8,000 twice a year for charity from that cruise. There's also an event sponsored by the Porsche Club of America at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, where you get to go give kids rides around the track. Now, when I was 15 years old, year after my wish, I went there, and I was just learning to drive at the time. I didn't have my license. I went and rode around in a couple of Cobras for an hour, and it was amazing. And I just remember saying, well, I really would love to be able to do this someday. And the great part of that is I did. The next few years I was able to drive on the track, but I had to be 21 in order to give kids rides. And this past year I turned 21, and I got to take my car out on the track and give kids some rides, and well, I think I made an impression. I got to make some kids' days, and that was a pretty special opportunity. So this particular year, it's a little difficult to get kids to ride in your Subaru station wagon when you have, you know, Porsches and McLarens and race cars. There's all sorts of crazy stuff there. But I was banking on one thing, and that was that there was going to be a kid or kids that needed to have more than one person in the car with them. Most of these Porsches, they only have 2 seats. So it's just the kid and the driver. And a lot of kids can't do that. So I got to give a couple rides to people. I gave a ride to, at first, a friend of somebody who was there, and then second, the father of somebody who worked for the Make-A-Wish organization. They both had a good time. But on the third time in, there was this little kid. He had previously not wanted to get in any cars, and the people on the sidelines organizing it kept trying to get him in cars. And I pulled in, and they pointed to my car and said, "Hey, this guy's got 4 doors. Your parents can ride with you." So he finally agreed, ushered him in, and got out on the track. I warned him, I said, "It's going to be really loud. Are you sure you're ready for this?" And he said, "Yeah." And I opened up the car's and external wastegate. It's really loud, especially up against the wall, and he was just laughing himself to death, and he was so happy. Took him for a couple laps. That kid was so delighted. He went from just totally closed off, quiet, reserved, to laughing and just smiling. And you could tell his parents were delighted too. And when I got back, I remember him getting out, and he walks up to the window and he says, this poor kid, he had already had 3 brain tumors removed. But he points at me and looks at me and says, "Just remember, you were my driver." And that was quite a special experience. Not something I'm going to forget, and hopefully something he doesn't forget, or his parents. But that's the kind of experience that Make-A-Wish is all about, and it was just really awesome to be able to combine the love of cars with Make-A-Wish and giving back. I don't really intend on selling the Legacy. I'm really deep into this car, and it would be kind of silly for me to sell it. I'm also in the advantageous position that it's a 13-year-old car. I did not finance it. I was able to get it outright, and I don't owe anything on the car, so if it somehow gets to the point where I can't afford to keep it on the road, I can just store it somewhere. I can push it over into a corner and wait until I can afford to work on it. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't really feel like that's going to happen, but I don't have to sell it, and that means I'm not going to sell it.